morning, everybody, and thank you for joining this latest webinar in our National Diversity and Inclusion Awards series. I'm Andrew Campbell-Edie. I'm the Communications Manager at the Irish Centre for Diversity. Just some self-description to get going for those that need it. I'm a Black man in my 50s. My pronouns are he, him. I have a shaved hair on my head and a black moustache. A black turtleneck jumper. Don't let the accent fool you. Actually been in Ireland. Sorry, I'm originally from the UK, but I've been in Ireland for the last 12 years after being tempted here by a very persuasive Irishman I married. For anyone that doesn't know about the Irish Centre for Diversity and our work, I'm just going to take a few more moments to describe what we do. So the Irish Centre for Diversity is a D&I focused company that supports businesses and organisations to become more equitable and diverse. We're the leading organisation delivering D&I training in Ireland, and we have coached more than 250s across many sectors. Supported by IBEX, this is diversity, which is Ireland's premier D&I accreditation mark. In addition to this, we offer a full consultancy service to help with any specific D&I needs. Please contact us through our website, irishcenterfordiversity.ie, or social media to find out how we can help share your journey. Now, we recently launched the first ever Diversity Inclusion Awards, which celebrates Ireland's D&I excellence across all areas. And this webinar is important because it gives the award winners, the sponsor, and the finalists an opportunity to share their insights and experience around D&I so that we can all benefit from that. And today's webinar is especially important with Pride Month coming up and in track for that, because Pride and LGBT inclusion is not just for Pride and for June, it should be a year-round endeavour. So hopefully you'll learn something from today's session that you can apply to your own organisation. So today's session, as I said, focuses on the National Lottery LGBTQ Inclusion Award. We're joined by Sarah Garvey and Vanessa Cunningham, who are our ISL interpreters for today. I'll shortly hand over to the award sponsor, and then we'll hear from each of the finalists and the award winners before a short Q&A at the end. Just some housekeeping before we get going. The session's being recorded and is available will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website. Everyone is muted except the panel. And please do use the chat function at the moment to let us know where you're dialing in from, which company, but please do save any questions for the Q&A function, otherwise they may get missed. Before I hand over to the award sponsor, I'd just like to point out that our award sponsor for today is the National Lottery. They are leaders in their field and also leaders in D&I. They hold Investors in Diversity Silver, which is Ireland's premier D&I accreditation. They weren't, because they're a sponsor, they were excluded from entering any of the award categories, but that doesn't take away from the progress that they've made in D&I. And hopefully when I hand over to Liz from the sponsor, you'll hear more about their work. There is a video that Liz prepared beforehand going into detail on the National Lottery's wider D&I work, and that's available on the National Diversity Inclusion Awards website. So please do check that out. It's on the under the Meet the Sponsors page. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Liz Shouldice, who's from the National Lottery. Over to you, Liz.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. A lovely introduction. And good morning, everybody. So it's great to be here. My name's Elizabeth, Liz for short. I'm a white woman in my 40s, and my pronouns are she, her. I have straight, shoulder length blonde hair, and I wear a very warm smile most of the time. And today I'm wearing my signature green jumper, and this is very much on brand with the National Lottery. And I wear long dangly gold earrings. This is a trend I adopted during COVID when we were all on Zoom. So I've embraced that trend. My role is that of Chief People Officer in PLI, and we are the operator of the National Lottery. So I'm thrilled to be here today, and I have a huge passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And hence, I'm hugely proud to work with my team in National Lottery and to have sponsored this year's LGBTQ Inclusion Awards with the Irish Centre for Diversity. So I thought maybe I'd just start by telling you a little bit around the National Lottery. It's a brand, I suppose, that we're all very familiar with. But just in terms of our background, we were set up 36 years ago, and our core objective was to raise money for good cause organisations. And when we talk about good cause organisations, we're really talking about those organisations that work to develop culture and heritage, support youth, support growth, participation in sports, and really contribute to an inclusive and just society. So very fitting that we are part of this award ceremony. In terms of, a little bit of factoid about ourselves, almost 30 cents of every euro which is spent on National Lottery games goes to good cause funds. So each year, over 4,000 community groups, projects, initiatives across the island of Ireland receive funding. And since our inception in 1987, over 6 billion has been raised for good causes. So Premier Lotteries Ireland is the operator of the Irish National Lottery, and we were awarded a 20-year licence by the Irish government in 2014. And really, we're very much committed to delivering on what we call our core purpose, and that's to operate a responsible and world-class lottery for the people of Ireland, and thus raising much needed funding for good causes for the benefit of local communities. In terms of our journey, National Lottery are really passionate around diversity and inclusion, but we were definitely on a journey. And this is one where our ambition is to create a culture that's very much inclusive and where all our employees feel like they belong and that they can really show up, I suppose, and enjoy their role in National Lottery. And I think as part of that this year, we really wanted to show our commitment to this journey and put some of our words into action. And hence we took the opportunity to work with the Irish Centre for Diversity and sponsor this really key award. And over the last number of years across the organisation, we very much started through educating our employees, working with a number of partners across different sectors, really on that journey to learn more and really come back into our organisation and start putting good practice into place. We've had a huge focus on our people policy, a huge focus on getting involved with different community groups. And really over the last 12 months, we've had that opportunity to host some keynote events such as International Women's Day, Culture Week, Support Pride Week, and Men's Health. And again, as we move into 23, we have a programme of initiatives which really support our people across the organisation to get involved in the DE&I initiatives. And last year, we had a great opportunity to host an in-house event where we very much brought together both people across our own business and some of our external partners in an LGBTQ kind of community discussion. And this really featured discussion on the opportunities that we can create as an employer, but also some of the challenges for the LGBT community and those surrounding them, be they friends, maybe allies, parents. We discussed really core topics like the importance of language, being non-judgmental in how we question and react to one another. And we talked about many of the challenges which the community faces in work and maybe the broader society. So it has been a really, really busy last 12, 18 months. And we've also taken the opportunity to work with Belong To and raising key funds through the Pride Parade. So it has been a fantastic journey. We've learned so much. And as an organisation, we're very, very much committed to this agenda. So a great privilege for National Lottery to sponsor this event. Just wanted to highlight to you, we were not part of the judging process, okay? So today is a great education for myself and our own team to learn a little bit more about the journey that others are on. And I suppose it's really important to remember that progress doesn't just happen. It really does require intentional equity, inclusion, and belonging interventions. And I suppose on that note, I'm really keen to hear from some of our wonderful panelists today. So we had 5 shortlisted finalists, that being FBD, Hayes, Midlands, LGBTQ Project, the Southeast University and KPMG. And I know 3 of those organisations are able to join us this morning. So I'm going to start by maybe inviting Emer from FBD to join us. But before I do that, Emer, I just wanted to read out a small little synopsis of what the judges told me about your particular submission and why you were shortlisted. So the judges were impressed by FBD's strategic intention to promote LGBT inclusivity, accepting that they were an organisation with a conservative profile. They set about actively addressing this, engaging employees in surveys, supporting Pride campaign, ensuring visual representation of their support in logos and branding. So Emer, love to hear a little bit more, and I might hand over to yourself, and if you might start with your own introduction, that would be great.
Great, thank you very much, Liz. So my name is Emer O'Donovan. I work as a HR business partner with FBD Insurance, and I do lead out on our Diversity and Inclusion Committee as well. If I'm self-describing, I am a white woman in my 30s. I have fairly fuzzy blonde hair now this morning, just down below my shoulders. I'm wearing a black hairband, a white Puma jumper. I'm in my comfies because I'm working from home today, and my pronouns would be she, her. So that's a little bit about me. In terms of the Pride campaign that we looked at in introducing last year into FBD, it was the first of its kind. And you know, to be very honest, we've tried to sort of do Pride initiatives in previous years, but we haven't had the buy-in before from managers. When we launched our diversity and inclusion strategy at the end of 2020, what we really wanted to achieve here was assessing our employees. So who do we employ here at FBD? What do they look like? So we ran a survey through an Inclusio application, and we managed to get some really good statistics back. And we realized there was a good population of people that were associated with the LGBTQ community that work at FBD. And that there gave us the leverage to then go to the senior management team and say, look, we want to promote these people, we want to celebrate these people, we want to be allies of these people. So we kind of put our case together, and we got some budget, which was brilliant. It's always important, and a good starting point. And from there, then the committee started to plan then how we would celebrate Pride Month. So you mentioned there, Liz, we had our visuals, which was really, really important. You know, and it's more on the cosmetic level, but it's still nice to have that visual representation. So for the first year ever, we flew the Pride flag outside of FBD House, and we've got our own Pride FBD logo, which all employees across all 35 sites in the country updated within their email signature. So it's even great to get that message out to our external customers, which was really great. And we also shared out Pride pins to all employees that were able to wear them on their lanyards. So again, it was that very kind of visual representation. We then ran a campaign for 2 weeks through, again, the Inclusio app, whereby all employees could engage with the application. They could log in every day, read a little bit about Pride, the importance of Pride. They could take fun quizzes to test their knowledge if they knew much about Pride itself. And again, we were able to gather a few more statistics around the people that we employ here at FBD. So it was a really fun and engaging application. It was really important to us not to force it onto everybody. So the application allowed people to engage with the level that they were very comfortable at engaging with, which I think was really, really important. as we came up then to Pride Week, we hosted our own Pride panel discussion, and there was a mix of senior management team on that panel, and then we also had Minister Roderick O'Gorman, who's the Minister then for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. So he came in to join us for that panel discussion, and it was a very honest, very vulnerable discussion by our senior management team and by the Minister around their own personal experiences through coming out to, being part of the LGBTQ community in the workplace, the importance of pride, and Roderick O'Gorman then was able to tell us a little bit more as well about his own experiences as the Minister, which was very, very powerful. And there was a few light-hearted stories in there as well, a few funny stories about coming out. So it really just opened up the conversation in FBD that probably naturally wouldn't have kind of come to light, I suppose. So it was really, really good, and we got some very good feedback off the back of that. We also then sponsored the Pride Mullingar, which was the first Pride in Mullingar. We have an office in Mullingar, a call centre, I suppose. We have about 120 employees there. So it was brilliant to have that buy-in to support Pride Mullingar as well. And as a result of our first ever sort of Pride Month celebration, we did develop then an EORG group off the back of that for the LGBTQ plus community. Among different people across the organisation, and I'm delighted to say that this year they're really going to be pushing forward in delivering Pride Month this year. So I'm very excited to see that what they come up with for that.
Emer, that's fantastic. A fantastic story actually, and many things that I love about that. I love, your recognition of that need for data and assessing where you're at, and that senior leadership team support and sponsorship, which is absolutely key and really brings these initiatives to life. So I think you're very, very deserving in terms of being shortlisted for the award. And I think, you're going to go from strength to strength. You've built such solid foundations. So thank you for sharing. Great insights there.
No problem, Liz. Thank you.
So next, I might invite Anya. We've Anya on the line, and Anya is from Southeast Technology University. So for short, it's SETU. And actually, just before I hand over to you, Anya, and just a couple of notes I have here, which were shared by the judges in relation to your submission and what really stood out to the judges. So the university's approach to educating students around topics such as transgender inclusion, raising the levels of understanding with in-house employees and the college campus. The potential for impact within the wider community was hugely impressive. So I hope that does you justice, Anya, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your journey.
Thanks very much, Liz, and thanks everyone for having us. I see my colleague Roisin has joined us also, so I might just talk a little bit about the background of the project, and I'll let Roisin speak to the actual rollout and the training. So we are the newest university in the country, Southeast Technological University, and we have had a long history of LGBTQ plus inclusion here. I'm based in the Carlow campus, and we were one of the first universities to have a gender identity and expression policy approved by the executive management team. So following on from that progress, back in 2019, we applied for funding from the HEA, and so we led out then on a sectoral project, which was innovative by developing LGBTQ plus training and a new national network in the area. So it was to develop and deliver training to staff, because obviously we have third level students here, and we would have found there's obviously a lot more visibility of LGBTQ plus, but also the focus here was on trans and non-binary students. So to kind of educate lecturers and so on that. So that was some of the background to it, in that we could see the need there, and HEA responded really well to this, because they can see that it's a real opportunity we have as universities to make it a more kind of enjoyable and better experience for students. So it was received really well, and so we received funding then in the second round to deliver that. So I might let Roisin speak about the partnership we have with Shout Out and then how we delivered out the training. So I hope she's here.
I think you're on mute there, Roisin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Just before I start, in case anybody is wondering, we're using my background here. These are South East Technological University female staff. So for the month of March, for International Women's Day, just if you're wondering who are those people behind me, it's just we're saying embracing equity. I see Andrew clapping there, so thank you. Yeah, it's a lovely thing. I think that was created for us. So as Anya said, we led a project funded by the Irish Higher Education Authority, and we worked with 5 participating Irish higher institutions, and we developed gender identity expression policies and also procedures to provide information and support and a framework for ensuring equality and non-discrimination. So that would be even around, you know, if a student or a staff member, but it's been more a student, has transitioned, how does that process work in the format of maybe registering under a different name, maybe they come in under a name in CAO, and how the process is around that. So we were able to design and deliver a bespoke training program and materials on gender identity with the experts in this space, and a lot of you actually know Ruan and Tilly from Shout Out, and they are a charity working to create inclusive services for educational institutions, and they deliver excellent educational programs. So we had a pilot phase and we rolled it out. We did all different types of training through Shout Out, like the ABCs of LGBTQ+, and we had literally hundreds of staff over a number of months, you know, engage in this training. We have this training again set up for the end of April. At the moment, one is in person and one is online across all our campuses in SCTU. We then did a train the trainer for designated HEIs in the form of the Gender Identity and Expression Equality Champion Training Programme to try and, I suppose, you know, explore gender roles and unconscious bias to evoke inclusion for the LGBTQ+ community. And then in March 2022, we didn't have an LGBTQ+ staff network. There was things happening with the Students' Union for students, but nothing for staff. And that was a really big, I suppose, it was something that staff really hadn't engaged with before, of maybe like what the last speaker said about telling their story, about coming out and being comfortable to be seen in joining a staff network. And we were very fortunate that the EDI, the Vice President for EDI, our President at the time, and lots of other staff that are not in the LGBTQ+ community came to that launch and supported these staff. So, and they went to Dublin, and we have photographs on our website to show that we are in support of these staff members. And now more and more staff are joining this network because it's seen as open, and it's not as, it's more transparent, and it's seen, it's more visible. And the other things we do is, like you can see my lanyards, we wear the coloured lanyards, we have badges, maybe Anya will speak a little bit more. We have badges that we wear. I don't have mine on today, but oh, you do, Anya? Maybe you tell a little bit about the badges. So we, you know, I'm only working, the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Office in SCTU is only there since November 21. So we have done a lot in a very short space of time, and really it's testament to the work of Anya in particular, and Alison. So I don't know, Anya, if I can pass back to you. Do you want to tell a little bit about the badges?
Well, there was also a final piece to this, because, you know, as Roisin mentioned, we've developed the Train the Trainer, but as part of that, there's a national network available now that we've founded to support staff, because look, we're lucky enough to have the support of Shout Out, but really they are helping us to help ourselves. And so there is a Gender Identity and Expression Equality Champions Network, a bit of a mouthful, but that is hopefully going to be sector wide. And as part of that, you know, we do wear badges to give visibility to staff and students that we're here, and that, you know, that we're you know, it's kind of modelled on something they had in the HSE, again, for young people in Tempest Street and Crumlin, that you know, that if there's a student who feels like they might want to come and talk to someone, and again, that huge piece that Emer mentioned about the visibility to staff and student, because it's a very big, complex organization. Some people come in and out very quickly, so the more visibility there is in more places for that, the better. So, you know, it's really, we're getting started in this, but we have great buy-in from across the sector, great support from our colleagues. You know, myself and our vice president, we were in Brussels last week, joined by 2 other universities in the sector. So it's really growing in momentum, and that we're all working on this together. So, I mean, we could go on and on, I'm sure, but I know that there's other people like to contribute this morning. So thanks very much.
Anya, thank you so much. And Roisin, thank you so much. So much in that, actually. And maybe what struck me was the importance of educating the educators. You know, that is absolutely fantastic. And of course, because you're in the education sphere, you got it down pat in terms of starting with your pilot and building it from there. So I think there's a lot of learnings actually for all of us in that. And really, really great. And I suppose the power of that national network as well, that will grow from strength to strength. So great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to hand over now to Karina. So Karina's joined us from KPMG today, and KPMG, as we're aware, were the winners this year of the National Lottery LGBTQ Award. And just before I hand over to you, Karina, maybe just let me articulate here what our judges told us about your submissions. So KPMG demonstrated very strong leadership support from the outset, with senior colleagues participating on the steering committee and sharing personal journeys on the organisation's social media channels. There was a great sense of strong employee engagement, as evidenced by good participation in surveys, well-attended and run events and training initiatives across the organisation. KPMG's commitment to ensure LGBTQ inclusion is embedded in their processes and extends to reviewing their HR people policies and application processes through the LGBTQ lens, and reaching out to other networks and organisations whom they believe have shown thought leadership in this space. So Karina, over to you to maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Right, I will just describe myself. I am a white female with bobbed blonde hair. I'm wearing a green and black shirt and a black jacket, and my pronouns are she, her. And it's funny just listening to the other speakers and Anya talking about, you know, the badges and stuff. It's sometimes the small things can make a massive difference. And here in the office, I see Roisin as well has her Pride lanyard. We introduced these a number of years ago, and it's amazing the difference. You think it's a small hygiene factor, and actually a number of people came up to me from the LGBTQ plus committee saying, and sorry, we didn't make everyone wear them if they were an opt-in, but all of a sudden, once we launched them and they were available in public areas and in our canteens, and you saw a wash of people wearing them, people said, oh my God, I now feel people are supporting me, people are choosing it, people are allies, and I can now be more open about who I am. And I would have hidden, the fact that I'm married with 2 small children, and my wife, it was something I didn't publicly speak about or engage in. And it is those small things it's not to underestimate those small things, I suppose, first of all. And we've been running our LGBTQ plus committee. It has senior engagement across the organisation. It's been heavily promoted, and we were lucky, I suppose, the first few years. The Pride Parade started outside our buildings. We're based, our headquarters here is Stokes Place, right outside St. Stephen's Green. And a number of years back, that's where the Pride Parade started, right outside our doors. So we had prime position. I don't know if anyone remembers, but we managed to be able to put a massive, huge banner that took over the whole building on the side of the building. So it was very obvious and evident. We fly the Pride Parade flag every year on the top of our building. And we were lucky that we have a courtyard where a car park is within our building, so we could have a celebration event before the Pride Parade. So we had a champagne brunch before the Pride Parade kicked off, and then scooted everyone out to join the parade a number of years back. I suppose COVID hit, no Pride parades, and we pivoted. How do we keep the momentum up? How do we keep people engaged? How do we create that awareness when we're not all in the offices? You can't physically see each other. People mightn't be in the offices to see the flag flying and the banner on the buildings, which we still did, but there wasn't that footfall or that engagement physically. So we came up with the idea of telling people's personal stories. So we got a number of our people who told their stories, and we done it in a very, I think, authentic and genuine way. There was people who were very out and proud, and it was no big deal, and other people's stories were much more like they hid themselves away for a long time, and then they came out, and you know, one of our people was from India. And, you know, for him, it was illegal. Like, you know, you couldn't admit being LGBTQ coming from India. He wasn't out to his family. He came over to Ireland, and it opened up a whole new way of living. And he totally like morphed into being out and proud, and telling his story. And I think those personal stories really resonated with people because they were authentic, and they were, I suppose, people opened themselves up and showed that vulnerability, and that resonated with our people. And I know the people who participated in that first year got so many emails saying, oh my God, how brave, and that's fantastic, and showed their support, and it was fantastic. And in the second year, we said, well, we won't do the same again. Let's try, second year of COVID, let's try do something different. So we got our people, a few of our committee together, and they did a kind of like a fireside chat type thing. We did a video series, so we had them in a not KPMG, not officey environment. We went to Roberto's and did the filming down there, and they were sitting around having a coffee and discussing topics. And then what we did is we did a video drop each day of the week before the Pride Parade, and we focused on different topics. So around the importance of visibility and role models, and having people you can look up to, you know, coming out, and how difficult that can be, and how individual that journey is for everyone. You know, we talked about another video series focused on language, and I know people are often who are not from the LGBTQ plus community sometimes feel afraid about using language, or they'll get it wrong, or they'll offend someone inadvertently. So again, one of the videos focused on language, and you know, trying to, you know, say that, you know, it's okay to ask, or if you're unclear or uncertain. So that was another one. Then another one talked about panty bliss, and I suppose the age group, maybe the age group of our people in the videos, where panty bliss had a huge you know, being involved the whole marriage referendum, and that whole piece, and being such an activist, and they really resonated with panty bliss. Now, I don't know if the younger people, we have a lot of 20 to 23-year-olds who maybe weren't as familiar of who panty bliss was, but with our group, it really resonated. And we actually had panty bliss in last year talking. We do an executive speaker series as part of our Pride Parade to our Pride celebrations. So we try to have someone high profile who is from the LGBTQ plus community. So last year it was Panty Bliss, and talking about growing up in Mayo, and when it was still illegal in Ireland to be gay, and talk about their journey, and really powerful. But in the past we've had Maria Walsh, MEP, and past Rosa Tralee, contestant Margot Slattery, ex-Sodexo, Nigel Owens, Welsh Rugby referee, Martin Shanahan, and CEO of the IDA. So these speakers, and again, it is that telling of that personal story, and everyone's journey is different, and I suppose bringing that about. So that was a big cornerstone of what we did from creating that integration with our people to make them more aware, subtly educating them rather than ramming maybe training courses down their throats or whatever. And we do in terms of all of our induction, people who go through induction, and we have hundreds of young graduates join us each year. They would go through induction, and one of the mandatory sessions they do is they do a 2-hour session on an inclusive mindset. And you know, we talk to them about what we're doing from a whole IDE perspective in the firm, and that's a big piece. Another thing, you know, we look at, you know, inclusive language. We have things like LinkedIn Learning, and obviously Degreed, and we have a called Culture Wizard, and all of these programs you can go and we encourage people to go and check them out and do short. Some of them are very short, 20-40 minute sessions that you know, self-learning, and we really encourage that. We do an IDE download every couple of months where we talk about what we're doing on the wider IDE space, but focusing specifically on the LGBTQ plus agenda. We look at partnering with different organizations. How can we spread ourselves beyond just KPMG? We've done things with Belong To. We've certainly done sessions with their young people, and where they've come in, and we've done kind of CV prep, interview prep with some of their people. Other things like we're working with Chartered Accountants Institute to look at their balance network and doing joint events with them. So there's collaboration. So it's just broader than KPMG, but we're broadening our network. So there's some of the things that we've done in terms of the KPMG journey. We're constantly looking at ways we can improve. We certainly don't think we've done everything we can do. We're constantly challenging our committee to come up with new and innovative ways of engaging our people. And you know, it is a journey, and it's sure everyone would agree. There's no end point in sight. We'll just keep learning and growing.
Karina, thank
That's amazing.
you so much. Yeah, I can hear the passion in your voice for that journey that you've been on. And great, like, so just great insights, you know, for all of us to hear, and I think helps us all think about the roadmap and how we bring it to life, everything from those personal stories, which are so powerful and impactful, and empowering for the individual, I think, as well, to the fireside chats. And certainly that concept of that role modeling is so important, and I can feel the impact already. So thank you for sharing. I'd love to hand over maybe to Andrew then.
Sure, absolutely. Before we get to the Q&As, I would, like Liz, I was taking notes all throughout those talks. Incredible, amazing. As a gay man, it's really uplifting to hear about all the work that's being done on LGBTQ space. It was incredible, and my God, KPMG, very worthy winners. Sounds like you would so much being done. So thank you for that. But what I wanted to say, the notes that I've taken from across all of the speakers shows the amount of work that's being done, and it doesn't take huge investment. Small things like lanyards are things that all companies of all sizes can implement, and they make such a difference, as all of the speakers have said. Other things I picked out were the importance of visibility and representation, the importance of creating a culture of inclusion so people can be their full selves, can come out, can not have to hide their full stories. The importance of communication, you know, storytelling, being authentic. What else have I put? God, there was so much. It was incredible to hear about FBD being part of the community and sponsoring the Mullingar Pride. Incredible. Anyway, I won't go on. I'll open up the Q&A function now, so we'll come to those. So we've got an anonymous question here for Liz. This person wants to ask, what has been a standout initiative for the National Lottery around LGBTQ plus initiatives? What are you most proud of?
I think my standout moment was actually our in-house panel discussion, whereby we all kind of brought ourselves and our knowledge to the table, and we just learned so much. We actually learned so much about our colleagues in-house, and also some partners that we work with. And maybe just we walked a mile in their shoes to understand the challenges they face, both in the workplace and in broader society. And that really had huge resonance across the business, and really gave us a lot of food for thought in terms of how mature we are ourselves in the organisation and maybe that roadmap that's ahead of us. But that definitely had huge resonance for me last year.
Okay, I have another question here, which I think is really good, and it's also from an anonymous attendee. It's a question about, well, I'm going to link two questions together. There's one question I saw about how do you start an ERG, employee resource group, around what can be a sensitive area. And the other question that's linked, I think, is, and it was aimed at FBD, is how do you break down the barriers in a male-dominated organization and even start this conversation? And by male-dominated, I'm thinking they mean straight male, macho kind of environment. How do you go around starting this conversation in that sort of context with that sort of team base? So I'll open that to all of you, really, not just to Ema, but Ema, if you wanted to just talk about, because the question was directed at FBD, how do you break down barriers in a male-dominated organization and start the conversation? But then if anybody wants to chip in with how to start, how to build a culture of inclusion that will enable an ERG to come to fruition. Ema? I actually can't see Ema on the screen, so I'll open it up to...
Yeah, so maybe we start just like, I'd love just in terms of setting up an ERG. I think it's about being very open around where you're at and about what your ambition is and the purpose of the ERG, and very much encouraging people to get involved, whether that's publicly or more privately, to give their input. Whether that's at a committee level or whether that's, initiative driven. So very much by invitation and meeting people where they're at, I think, in terms of how comfortable they are to publicly talk about these things. And then success breeds success, right? So once you start that discussion, the next discussion is easier. And that's been kind of our lived experience at the National Lottery.
And I'm just to jump in there, it's when you're starting from something from scratch like this. I'm going to hold my hand up. A number of years back when we were starting this, we put out a call out and we were looking for people to join, and it was slow to trickle in. So, I'm going to be honest, I used my own internal networks within the firm and reached out to a couple of people that I knew were from the LGBTQ plus community and said, listen, we're really trying to get this off the ground. We need your support. And that led to someone saying, yeah, count me in. I mean, people liked that personal approach. And I know it's a sensitive area, but I had no issues. And as you said, as Liz said, there's success breeds success. Once you have a few people in and, and it was partner led and driven and really supported from the top, then it just gained momentum. But I did need to reach out personally to connect with a few people just to start the ball rolling. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, that's great to hear. I've another next question, and it's from Orla. She's asked, how do you go about connecting with public figures to become involved in discussion panels? And I'm going to give my first, I want to jump in there and just say, just from my experience coming from the UK and now living in Ireland for many, many years, I'm always struck by the accessibility of people in Ireland and the openness. It is as simple as just sending an email, or just sending an email and inviting them to do something and involving them. I just know that in the UK, I guess from a bigger population, there's so many gatekeepers that you have to get past to get any involvement in anything. You almost have to sign over be able to get anyone involved in thing. I would say to everyone here, you know, just reach out, just make that invitation, but I know open up to the panel to add their own contributions.
I know from our perspective, because we do have these panels, so it's a bit of a mix. I totally agree with you, Andrew. It is, you know, if there's only 1 degree of separation in Ireland, there's not 6. And I know for someone like Marie Walsh, I follow her on Instagram. She's a Mayo woman and massive Mayo supporter. I'm a Mayo woman, so I connected through the love of GAA, and she was delighted to do it. Same, one of our committee was a good friend of Martin Shanahan's. You know, I know Margot Slattery from the circuit, and we've been on a couple of panels together. But say the likes of, you say, high profile names like Panty Bliss or someone like Nigel Owens, they do have agents and they do have fees, and we do, yeah, for the right speaker, we'll pay a fee, to be honest.
And I might come in there, I completely agree with Karina, and it's about your network as well. It's about, you know, how much time you give to these initiatives, and it's always reciprocal in terms of people supporting you back in return. I think that's really, really important. But look, I think people who genuinely believe that we can make huge progress and have demonstrated huge progress, they're so proud of that they want to share their stories. And that story is really, really powerful, and it really, really resonates. And it might even talk a little bit to that previous question of how do you break down barriers. I mean, it is kind of the sharing of people's personal stories and the impact of that, and how relatable it is to all of us, whether it's us directly or to family, friends, networks. So like, I think that's kind of my viewpoint on it, that actually, when people share that true story, it has such an impact that really does kind of hold people's attention for a moment and gets them to think a little bit more internally themselves about how they're showing up. And just on that question as well around breaking down barriers, sometimes it's around kind of just genuine feedback in the moment, you know, so people become a little bit more aware, I think, and building on that awareness, then I really think that that's the most important place to start, is just helping people build their awareness.
Thank you. Yeah, so valuable. Yeah. One more question, and then I think we'll wrap up, because I know that everyone's time is valuable. And it's a question from Roisin, who's also on the panel. She's got a question which is for Karina. She wants to know, how did KPMG get the personal stories out there? Was it through email, through newsletter? Was it face-to-face, through through a talking circle? What methods did you use to get those messages out?
So videos,
stories.
So it was the videos. Remember, it was COVID times, and yeah, we weren't all in the office that very first year, so we sent all social distancing guidelines followed with the videographer and stuff, and telling those stories, and they just were not. I don't know, we used a great videographer who managed to just get the best out of people, so they really were very authentic. So yeah, a video series, and then what we did was, the week of Pride, we had a communication each day, and we dropped a video each day, so a personal story dropping each day.
Can I ask a question there? Did you send an all staff email out at the beginning saying, would you like to be involved in these videos? Or did you have to tap on shoulders?
Well, we have for that, we have a good network within our own committee, and so we focused on them. Yeah.
Practical tips there. Hopefully that answers everything. Now I think we have finished for the day, so I'll just wrap up by saying a huge thank you to all the panelists. I learned so much. I'm sure that everyone that's joined us today has learned a huge amount as well. So the recording of the webinar will be available afterwards. Give us a few days for our technical and AV genies to do their magic, and they'll be posted on the Irish Centre for Diversity website underneath the events tab. So look out for that in the next few days, perhaps next week at this stage, because I know that our poor technical genies have got a few, they're backed up with a few of these webinars. So it will be available. We'll also put notices on the our social media, on our LinkedIn page, to let everyone know, just to alert everyone that it's available. So once again, thank you very much. Join us for other webinars in this series. Thank you very much. Thanks for the panel.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.